Good evening, everyone. I would like to call to order the June 2nd, 2025 Lake Washington School Board meeting. Let the record reflect that all of our school board members are present and accounted for, as well as our two senior student board representatives, Shira and Ella. The board values public participation and engagement in the meetings of the board. Board meetings will continue to be live streamed on the LWSD website and are available for viewing following the conclusion of the board meeting as well. The public are always welcome to email the board at boardmembers@lwsd.org. The first item on our agenda this evening is our land acknowledgement. Director Stewart, would you please read our land acknowledgement?
Yes, the Board of Directors of Lake Washington School District acknowledges that our district is on the indigenous land of the Coast Salish peoples who have reserved the treaty rights on this land, including the Duwamish and the Snoqualmie Indian tribe. We thank these caretakers of this land who have lived here since time immemorial. We commit to continue collaborating with our Native community to teach the indigenous history of this land and these local tribes to all children of the district. We also commit to provide the best possible education for all children of Native descent who attend our schools.
Thank you, Director Stewart. I will now entertain a motion to approve the June 2nd, 2025 agenda.
So moved.
Second.
It has been moved by Director Liberty and seconded by Director Stewart to approve the agenda as presented. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. The next item we have up on our agenda is our recognitions, and we have quite a few this evening, so bear with us. The very first recognition that we would like to do is for our student board representatives, our seniors. Director Yoakum and Director Liberty, I believe you guys are leading this recognition for us.
Good evening. Director Liberty and I had the privilege of overseeing the Student Representative Program this past year, and I'm honored to share a few words about our two student board representatives who will be graduating in just a few short weeks. Our Student Board Rep program is still in its early stages, which means we've relied heavily on the insight and feedback from these two students to help shape it into something truly meaningful. Their voices have been essential in building a foundation that genuinely includes and values student perspectives. On behalf of the entire board, I want to say how inspired, impressed, and grateful we've been for the way both of you have led during your time with us. Watching you grow into your roles, speak up with courage, and lead with both heart and humor has been an absolute joy. And now comes the hardest part, saying goodbye. So I will start with Shira. I have the honor of recognizing someone who has made a lasting impact on this board, our student board representative, Shira. Shira has served as a student board representative for the west side of the district and will be graduating from Lake Washington High School. For the past 2 years, Shira has been a powerful voice at this table, not just for students, but for honesty and clarity. She brought with her an energy that challenged us to think bigger, to listen more closely, and to lead with greater compassion. Whether she was asking tough questions, offering thoughtful insight, or just making us laugh with her quick wit and bright spirit, Shira never held back. She is honest, outgoing, unafraid, and confident, qualities that have served this board and our students incredibly well. As Shira graduates and moves on to her next chapter, she leaves behind big shoes to fill and a legacy of fearless student leadership. Shira, thank you for your service, your voice, and your heart. We are so proud of you, and we will miss you dearly. Can I do the next one, or do we do? Okay. Next is Ella. It is my pleasure to recognize someone who has quietly but powerfully made a real difference during her time on this board, our student representative, Ella. Ella has served as student board representative for the east side of the district and will be graduating from Redmond High School. Over the past 2 years, Ella has brought a steady presence, sharp insight, and a unique sense of humor that has kept us all grounded and often laughing when we needed it most. When Ella shares her thoughts, they resonate. Her words carry thoughtfulness, honesty, and more than a few perfectly timed one-liners. She has been incredibly responsible, always prepared, always present, and always committed to representing her peers with integrity. Her reliability and leadership have been a true gift to this board and to our district. As Ella graduates and moves on to new adventures, we know she will continue to lead with grace, humor, and strength. Ella, thank you for everything you've brought to this board. You will be deeply missed, but we are so proud of you and excited for all that's ahead. Do we need to do it? Wait, do we need to picture? Do we?
Thank you very much, Director Yoakum and Director LaLiberty. The second recognition we have on our agenda this evening is a recognition for Juneteenth. Director Guthrie.
Juneteenth holds significant historical, cultural, and societal importance in the United States. It commemorates the emancipation of the last Confederate community of enslaved African Americans and symbolizes the ongoing struggle for freedom, equality, and justice. Juneteenth serves as a reminder of the unyielding resilience, strength, and ingenuity of the Black community, while also highlighting the need to continue working towards a society free from racial oppression. 2025 marks the third year that the Lake Washington School District celebrates Juneteenth as a formal holiday to honor the ancestors of the past, celebrate the change agents of the present, while laying the foundation for a more inclusive and equitable future.
Thank you very much, Director Guthrie. The third recognition we have for this evening is a recognition of the Lake Washington PTSA Council. On behalf of the Lake Washington School District Board of Directors, I am honored to recognize and congratulate the Lake Washington PTSA Council and outgoing Council President Kristen Dorwin for being named the Outstanding PTA Council of the Year by the Washington State PTA. This prestigious recognition is a testament to the Council's extraordinary leadership, dedication, and advocacy on behalf of our students, families, and schools. In addition to this top honor, the Council was also recognized for achieving the standards of excellence in acknowledgement of their exceptional commitment to family engagement, program quality, and continuous improvement. Their efforts to keep our community informed and connected were further celebrated with awards for outstanding communication, outstanding website, and outstanding newsletter. These accolades reflect the unwavering commitment of our PTSA leaders and volunteers who work tirelessly to build strong partnerships between families and schools and communities. Their work exemplifies the very best of what it means to support student success and educational excellence. We extend our deepest gratitude and congratulations to the entire Lake Washington PTSA Council. Your outstanding contributions continue to make a meaningful impact across our district, and we are proud to celebrate this well-deserved recognition with you. Thank you. And our final recognition for the night is the LWPTSA Scholarship Awards. Dr. Holman.
And before we do that recognition, I'd like to ask President Kristen Dorwin to come up. I've worked with a lot of PTA presidents over the year, and each one brings their own flair, their own unique style, and each has been passionate about supporting students. And it has been such a pleasure over the last 2 years to see you really blossom into your leadership stance and how you've supported schools, council, and you've just done a tremendous job. And you truly have added to the partnership that we've established over the years, and we want to thank you for your leadership and everything you've done. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Wow, thank you so much. That's a great segue into our Lake Washington PTSA Scholarship Program presentation. So thank you to Dr. Holman and President Choi and the board directors. We really appreciate you having us here and welcoming these students. I would like to introduce our Scholarship Program Chair, Megan Selatrnikoff.
Kristen, thank you for the lovely introduction. I'm Megan Selatrnikoff. I'm chair of the Scholarship Committee, and I'm pleased to introduce the recipients of our 2025 Scholarship Program. These students and staff have accomplished amazing things, and I'm excited to share more about these inspiring individuals. Our first staff scholarship recipient is Muhi Mahbub, if you want to come up, from Ella Baker Elementary School. Ruhi is a paraeducator who is pursuing a master's in teaching special education program from Western Governors University, and she's interested in learning the different and creative ways in which teaching can take place, as well as how specialized learning can cater to students with diverse needs and capabilities. Please join me in congratulating Ruhi. Our next staff scholarship recipient is Brenna McCleary. Brenna is the inaugural recipient of the Howard McWhinney Scholarship for the Advancement of Special Education. Brenna is a resource room teacher at Blackwell Elementary School who primarily works with students in grades 3 through 5. She is furthering her knowledge base and instructional coaching experience through conferences in order to increase behavioral understanding, support, and success for students impacted by disability. Please join me in congratulating Brenna. Now I will present our student scholarship recipients, beginning with our Perseverance Scholarship winner. This award is given to a student who is well-rounded, who is a well-rounded community member and can show excellence in their life and academics and in the face of hardships or a challenging life circumstance. Our recipient of the Perseverance Scholarship is Jillian Swigard. Jillian attended both Redmond Middle and then Redmond High School, where she was heavily involved in theater, on the badminton team, as well as Link Crew, National Honor Society, and the Car Enthusiasts Club. She will be attending the University of Oregon in the fall, majoring in history and joining the Honors College for an accelerated 3+3 BA JD program. Please join me in congratulating Jillian. Our next scholarship is the Turnaround Scholarship, which is presented to a student who has significantly improved their academic record. This year's recipient of the Turnaround Scholarship is Simon Field. Simon previously attended Dickinson Elementary, Evergreen Middle, and will be graduating from Eastlake High School. At Eastlake, Simon's been a Pride Club officer, a Link Crew leader, student senator, and student equity board member. Simon will be attending Gonzaga University in the fall of 2025 for a degree in computer science and computational thinking. Please join me in congratulating Simon. Our next scholarship is the Lake Washington Education Association's Teely Scholarship, which is presented to a student planning to pursue a career in the field of education. This year's Teely recipient is Varnika Bhargav from Redmond High School. During her time there, she has served as class president and was involved in Politics Club, DECA, Economics Club, and the ASL Honor Society. Varnica previously attended Alcott and Blackwell Elementary in both Timberline and Evergreen Middle School. She will be attending Claremont McKenna College. Please join me in congratulating Varnica. Our next scholarship is given to a student planning to attend a 2-year vocational or technical college. This year's recipient is Molly Benson. Molly graduates from Juanita High School, where she was a 3-season athlete, which included fast pitch softball. And not only did she serve as varsity captain, but she was also a member of her high school athletic equity committee. Molly plans to attend Yakima Valley College, where she will study criminology and play softball. So Molly's already left for the evening, but please join us in congratulating Molly. Our next set of scholarships are for merit, which includes academic achievement, community service, and extracurricular participation and leadership. 2 awards are given per learning community, and a student's learning community is determined by their home address. Our first set of merit scholarships are for the Eastlake Learning Community, and our first recipient is Sophia Lisboa from Eastlake High School. Sophia also attended Smith Elementary and Inglewood Middle School. During her time at Eastlake, she's been involved with student government and youth-run nonprofit, the Hope Festival. Sophia will attend UC Berkeley in the fall, and she plans a double major in molecular and cell biology and Portuguese on a pre-med track. Please join me in congratulating Sophia. Our next recipient is Alon Ragoler, and he's from Eastlake High School. Alon previously attended Smith Elementary School, as well as both Redmond and Evergreen Middle Schools. Alon was involved in the Math Honor Society, Computer Science Honor Society, Cross Country and Drumline, and Percussion Ensemble while at Eastlake. He will be attending UC Berkeley in the fall. Please join us in congratulating Alon. Kristen.
All right, our next 2 recipients are from the Juanita Learning Community. First is Kara Nishiguchi from Juanita High School. She was involved in the Japanese Club, Kirkland Youth Council, National Honor Society, Japanese National Honor Society, and played badminton. Before high school, Kara also attended community school for elementary and North Star Middle School. Kara will be attending Mount Holyoke College in Massachusetts, where she plans to major in either international relations or statistics with a double minor in Korean and Japanese. Please join me in congratulating Kara. Our next recipient is Logan Clevenger from Juanita High School. Logan previously attended Juanita Elementary School and Finhill Middle School. While at JHS, Logan was an active DECA Club member and officer, involved with ASB, led a future voter event, and was part of the JHS swim and dive team. Logan will attend Gonzaga University in the fall. Please join me in congratulating Logan. Now moving on to the Lake Washington Learning Community, our first recipient is Ellie Lenahan from Lake Washington High School. Ellie was involved with Link Crew, NHS, the volleyball and track teams, the school newspaper and weekly broadcast class, and Lyrica, LDUB's choir. In the fall, Ellie will attend Gonzaga University and plans to major in psychology while minoring in music. Please join me in congratulating Ellie. Our next recipient is Shira Avitan. Shira previously attended Twain Elementary and Stella Scala Middle and will be graduating from Lake Washington High School. During her time at LWHS, she was very involved with DECA, Link Crew, National Honor Society, and also interned at a law office. Shira also served on the LWSD school board as a student representative. Shira plans to attend the University of Washington, majoring in business administration and minoring in law, societies, and justice. Please join me in congratulating Shira. In the Redmond Learning Community, the first recipient is Jasmine Zen from International Community School. Jasmine also attended Rosa Parks and Alcott Elementary Schools. During her time at ICS, Jasmine was a member and officer of Model United Nations, worked on and led the student newspaper, and was part of the Symphony Ensemble. She will be attending the University of Washington to study economics and sociology in the Interdisciplinary Honors Program. Please join me in congratulating Jasmine. Our next recipient from the Redmond Learning Community is Sarah Wen from Tesla STEM High School. While at Tesla, Sarah was heavily involved as a member and officer in Girls Who Code, a committee member of Future Business Leaders of America, and participated in Central Sound Science and Engineering Fair, as well as Washington State Science and Engineering Fair. Prior to her time at Tesla, Sarah attended Rockwell Elementary School and Redmond Middle School. In the fall, Sarah will be attending the University of Washington and majoring in computer science. Please join me in congratulating Sarah. Finally, our last recipient is Admaral Tumanjargal, who I'm not sure is with us tonight, unless she slipped in. Nope. Okay, from Lake Washington High School. Admaral is receiving our at-large scholarship. At LWHS, Admaral participated in Pinecone Academy coding classes and DECA, as well as Letters to My Heritage, National Honor Society, and Ignite Robotics. She previously attended both Rose Hill Middle School and Kirkland Middle School. In the fall, she will attend the University of Washington in Seattle, majoring in computer science. Please join me in congratulating Admaral. Our scholarship program would not be possible without the support of the 44 local PTSAs in our district, the high school, college, and career specialists who encourage these students to apply and who have continued to support us through this process, our auction team, the Lake Washington Education Association, and the Lake Washington School District. Finally, I would like to thank our fantastic team of judges for the hours they put into reviewing the applications. Special shout out to Denise Ferguson, who's a master at judging, as well as Elena Sellers for redacting names from each application. And of course, thank you to all the wonderful students and staff who submitted their applications for these scholarships, and their parents who make sure that they get everything in on time. Please join me in congratulating them on this accomplishment. So we're going to return you all to your seats. The board is going to recess shortly, at which point we're going to ask scholarship winners to meet us just outside for a group photo, and don't forget to get a program. But for now, off to your seats. Thank you so much, and thank you again to the school board and Dr. Holman for hosting us tonight.
Thank you very much, and congratulations to everybody once again. Thank you for being here and celebrating with us. Happy to have you at our meeting. As President Dorwin said, we are going to recess for 5 minutes, and that will give you time to get up and exit if you would like. If you are interested in staying for the remainder of our board meeting, you are also welcome to do so. We will recess until 7:30. Thank you. All right, thank you, everyone. We will go ahead and continue with our meeting. Tonight, the board will hold its annual organizational meeting in accordance with Operational Governance Policy 5. The board shall elect among its members a president and a vice president to serve one-year terms. Additionally, the board will also elect a legislative representative to serve for a one-year term. I will now turn the gavel over to Dr. Holman, who will hold a temporary chair until the president is elected. Dr. Holman.
Okay, thank you. So the process calls for nominations to be formally opened and closed. Nominations do not need a second, and the vote will be taken by roll call. And so now nominations are open for president of the Lake Washington School Board.
I would like to nominate Lisa Guthrie.
Lisa Guthrie has been nominated for president of the Lake Washington Board of Directors. Are there any other nominations for president? Hearing none, I declare the nominations to be closed. There's been one nomination for president, and that is for Director Guthrie. We'll do a roll call vote to vote for president. Director Yoakum?
Yes.
Director Stewart?
Yes.
Director Guthrie?
Yes.
Director LaLiberty?
Yes.
And Director Choi?
Yes.
Congratulations, Director, now President Guthrie. You've been unanimously voted to be president. Congratulations. You may now take over the chair and elect a vice president.
Nominations are now open for vice president of the board.
I nominate Director LaLiberty. I have to say your full name.
Are there any other nominations for vice president? Eric LaLiberty has been nominated for vice president of the Lake Washington Board of Directors. There has been one nomination for vice president, and that is Director LaLiberty. We will do a roll call vote. Director Yoakum?
Yes.
Director Stewart?
Yes.
Director LaLiberty?
Yes.
Director Choi?
Yes.
And Director Guthrie? Yes. Director LaLiberty is elected by unanimous vote to be vice president. Congratulations. Nominations are now open for legislative representative of the board.
I nominate Director Lindsay Yoakum.
Director Lindsay Yoakum has been nominated for legislative representative of the board. Nominations do not need a second. Are there other nominations for legislative representative? If there are no other nominations, I declare the nominations to be closed. There's been one nomination for legislative representative, and that is Director Lindsay Yoakum. We will do a roll call vote. Director Yoakum?
Yes.
Director Stewart?
Yes.
Director LaLiberty?
Yes.
Director Choi?
Yes.
And Director Guthrie, yes. Director Yoakum is elected by unanimous vote to be legislative representative. Congratulations. The next item on the agenda will be public comment. The Board of Directors of Lake Washington School District welcomes the public to the business meetings of the board and encourages community engagement. The board dedicates 30 minutes to hear from the public during the public comment period of the meeting, with each individual provided up to 2 minutes to speak. Participants should not expect a response from the board at the end of their comments, as we dedicate this time to listening to your voice and would like to get as many members of the public an opportunity to speak as the time allows. Members of the public can sign up to participate on the district website. Sign-up closes at noon on the day of the board meeting, and comments will be offered in the order of sign-up. If you signed up to speak but are not able to attend the meeting, you may designate another person to speak in your place by sending an email to publiccomment@lwc.org before noon the day of the meeting. If the original speaker is not present at the board meeting and has not notified LWSD of a replacement in writing by the deadline, the board will move to the next speaker. Substitutions at the meeting will not be accommodated. I'd like to also remind everyone here this evening that this opportunity to engage in dialogue is also an opportunity to model respectful discourse to our students and our community. We ask that the audience refrain from commenting and from prolonged applause following each comment, as it takes up time and prevents us from listening to as many speakers as we can fit into our dedicated 30 minutes. Once the public comment portion of our business meeting concludes, we ask that everyone who is not interested in listening to the rest of the agenda items exit quietly and in an orderly fashion so that we can continue the rest of our meeting. Public comment will now begin at 7:39 p.m. First up is Anya Mitros.
So I've sent the board 8 emails over, oh, I'm sorry. How do we fix that? Hello, is it better? Okay, sorry. So I've sent the board 8 emails over the past 2 years, so about 1 every 2 months, and you've replied to 3 of the 8. And I'd like to express gratitude to the one of you who offered insight and information and depth. And also, I'll keep coming to see you in person. And today, I'd like to offer some recommendations. So I'd like to encourage the district today to do better by twice exceptional kids. So those are kids who are excellent at one thing and maybe a little behind in another. Specifically, I'd like the district to respect psychologists' recommendations or psychologist evaluations. Psychologists can offer a better controlled test environment test process than a teacher with 25 kids. I've seen significant issues in district assessments 3 times in my 2 years in the district. Pretending that my daughter's 99th percentile score on the psychologist-administered WISC-5 exam served no one. No other child gained equity because my daughter was excluded. The only benefit to rejecting that licensed psychologist report was the pleasure of my attendance at your board meetings. And the biggest loss was for my daughter, the loss of a year of being challenged in school. Secondly, I'd like to ask the district to look into how often test anomalies happen. Ask the district to show you how often kids' scores jump 11 percentiles from administration to administration, as my daughter's did. Ask them how often scores are invalid, as I've seen twice among my 3 kids in 2 years. Look at the data and audit the test process. And a bonus idea, transparently share the results. And while the light is green, my timer says 2 minutes. Does that mean I get to keep going with a third? All right, third recommendation. I'd like to encourage transparency. The identification process and the programs for HiCap are a black box. In the week when I was to decide whether I'm going to enroll my daughter or not, the page on the curriculum for the HiCap programs page was under construction. There was 0 information about the curriculum. So as someone who's new to the district, I would have been making a blind decision. And the identification processes are opaque. Parents say that it's only the top percentile that gets in. Multiple parents have told me that it's only the top percentile, shown me scores of kids who get 198 and they're not offered admission. And you know what the paperwork says? It says 95th percentile. So I really encourage you to have clear and correct communication and transparent communication about how the evaluation, how identification happens and what the programs are about. And also respond to emails. Thank you.
Next up is Lakshmi Venkachalam. Sorry if I butchered that.
Hi. Hello, I'm Lakshmi Venkatachalam. Good evening and thank you for the opportunity to speak. We are here to request the district reconsider hosting full-time PES classrooms at Rosa Parks Elementary instead of Alcott for the year 2025-2026 and the upcoming school year. For the past 3 years, Rosa Parks students have consistently formed the largest portion of the FTQ cohort size at Alcott. Yet these students are required to travel over 4.5 miles, sometimes up to 1.5 hours daily by bus, when they could simply walk to their neighborhood school. Rosa Parks, yes, it is a walking school, it's a 1-mile school, and its families don't rely on the district transportation at all. Rosa Parks, in contrast, Alcott is not centrally located for the currently 2 schools that are actually assigned to go to Alcott and take the Quest program. Neither is it going to be centrally located for the 4 planned schools that are going to be commuting to Alcott to take the Quest program. There are also strong academic and social benefits to hosting FTQ at Rosa Parks. Students from Rosa Parks, Wilder, and Baker all move on to Timberline and Redmond High. Starting their Quest experience together at Rosa Parks fosters peer relationships and continuity across years. This is especially important because Quest classrooms often include mixed grade students, making social belonging more challenging. Additionally, Rosa Parks offer better facilities, natural light, and more robust PTSA programs including Spelling Bee, Passport Club, choir, chess, drama, Lego, dance, robotics, and STEM night that aren't available in Alcott. These enrichments better meet the needs of advanced learners. Hosting Quest at Rosa Parks would also eliminate the commute for 38+ students and significantly reduce the travel time for Wilder and Baker to Alcott. Despite sharing these advantages, the district has provided no data explaining why Alcott remains the host. We respectfully ask for transparency using student data, commute impact, and social continuity to guide site selection, rather than relying solely on administrative reasoning.
Comment, please.
Thank you.
Next up is Iswarya Sridharan.
Good evening, board members. My name is Aishwarya Sridharan and I am a parent of a current FTQ student at Rosa Parks. I'm here today to voice my strong concern and disappointment with the FTQ hosting decision process and urge the district to reconsider the decision with fairness and transparency. Over the past 2 months, Rosa Parks FTQ parents have made repeated efforts to engage the district in an open dialogue, requesting meetings via Zoom or in person. Despite these efforts, communications was confined to email and our most critical concerns were consistently left unanswered. We put forth thoughtful, constructive proposals, one of which was to form a combined 2x3 FTQ classroom with students from Rosa Parks, Baker, and Wilder, hosted at Rosa Parks, a centrally located and well-equipped school. Unfortunately, this and other suggestions was never meaningfully acknowledged. Our input is rooted in direct involvement with the program and in the district's own publicly available data. Several critical questions remain unanswered. What actual and projected enrollment data support selecting Alcott as the FTQ host site? Why can't the educators assigned to Alcott instead to teach at Rosa Parks? Why is a class size of 29 students being considered when district norms advise against sizes exceeding the low 20s for this age group? Why is Rosa Parks being paired with Alcott, a school with no shared middle or high school pathway, rather than with a nearby East Side school? This decision seemed to prioritize logistical ease over student-centered values like continuity, community, and equity. We respectfully urge the district to pause and reevaluate the decision in light of parents' input, students' need, and long-term program sustainability. Thank you.
Next up is Kishore Durbakula.
Hello, thank you for giving me this opportunity. I'm currently a parent of a gifted child enrolled in 4th grade in LWSD. And please note my deepest dissatisfaction and extreme concern about the process of allotment of full-time Quest schools in LWSD. My child, along with 38 other kids, some as young as 7 years old, are being asked to travel 1.5 hours a day, each day, just so that they can attend a gifted program away from their home school. Whereas there is enough opportunity to be, for them to attend just 10 minutes away a home school, which is a better home school for them than traveling 1.5 hours away. Needless to say, the emotional and physical trauma they have to undergo at this young age. We have repeatedly shown enough data points and shared in multiple emails all the parents of the 38 kids that there is a possibility to reconsider the decision to shift the the gifted program from Alcott back to Rosa Parks. But we have never been shared any data transparently to support the decision as to why the board still decided to go to Alcott instead of Rosa Parks for all the 38 kids. So our request is please reconsider the decision and give us an opportunity, share the data so that we can understand better the reasoning behind it and save our kids from all this emotional trauma. Thank you.
Next up is Christy Cohen.
Hi, my name is Christy Cowan. I've got 2 kids at Robert Frost. I wanted to speak to you today about how we can expand before and after care. Frost, we had to get a 4th kindergarten class halfway through the year. There's just more and more kids, and there's more and more demand, and every single parent benefits. Every single working parent benefits from having more expanded before and after care options. If it's not possible to expand extended day, there are local preschool facilities around that have spaces, and they're willing to take kids from Frost. We are a Title I school, so there should be some funds available, but they need the transportation to run to and from those facilities. So I would ask if we could open up some more options for before and after care for all of the working parents. Like I said, we are a Title I school. I looked into Title I funds. We are a growing school, and maybe there's a possibility of adding more spots for extended care, or at least, expanding some of the transportation options so that parents can work. Not all of us have remote jobs, and I am aware that there's a problem with CDLs. I have family members that drive, and I know that it's hard to get a CDL. It costs more money nowadays. But maybe we tap into Lake Washington Tech and get a pipeline going of people that can drive the buses. They pay a lot per hour now, and there's got to be some sort of solution so we can help expand before and after care options. Thank you.
Next up is Avanish DJ.
All right, hello board. I hope you all are having a wonderful evening. My name is Avanish. I'm a junior at Tesla STEM High School. I've been working on various projects surrounding sustainability since my freshman year. And I started this year with a project called the Waste Management, where my team conducted trash audits to see what waste management practices we could improve at our school. It was no surprise to find that lunch was the greatest producer of waste, and unfortunately, composting is not being done properly. We saw some improvement after the district switched to compostable lunch boats, but it's still not enough. I reviewed some of the footage and data that we collected from our trash audits and found that on average, for every 1 boat that went in the trash, in the compost, 4.5 end up in the trash. And out of those, 4.2 contain some sort of plastic cutlery. I know the feeling of hesitance when I have to remove a utensil before throwing it away when I'm running late to a class, and after talking to a couple of friends, they have too. I believe that the best way to combat this is to get compostable utensils as well and make everything that the lunchroom provides compostable. I reached out to Microsoft to learn more about who their suppliers were and then contacted them directly alongside a lot of others to get price estimates. I found that plastic utensils similar to the ones that we use are around 2 to 3 cents per piece. In comparison, the companies that I reached out to, such as EarthSwag, a local business, offered me birchwood cutlery at around 4.75 cents per piece. I also contacted CMA and Cedar Grove, our composting providers, to confirm that they accept these materials. Just last year, the district adopted operational expectation policy number 9, sustainability, which states that the superintendent would adopt policies to reduce the environmental impact of district operations and enhance the resiliency of the district toward future environmental impacts. I believe that this project aligns with both of these goals and will be a major step as we look to the future of sustainability at our schools. It is my sincere hope that the board will back this project and push it past mere words being spoken at a podium to impactful action that benefits our community and the planet. Thank you so much for your time and your dedication to the district.
Next up is Kirsten Hadalik.
Kirsten, can you hear us? I can hear you, yes. Can you hear me? We can hear you. would you like to turn your camera on?
I'm not sure why it's not turning the camera on. It's on my end. Again. Can you see me now?
There we go.
Here you go. Hello, sorry about that. I'm actually on my own board meeting right now. I just stepped up in the middle of a budget discussion. So I'm glad for the break. Thank you. Good evening, members of the board and audience members, Dr. Holman. My name is Kerstin Arevich. I'm the president of GIAC and a mother of 3 gifted children here in the district. I'm here today to advocate for our middle school class students because science really is not working well for them. 2 years ago, the self-contained middle school science classes were removed, and middle school class students now learn in an integrated model alongside their gen ed peers. In the absence of a district-driven evaluation of the science class changes, we at GIAC have collected feedback from current middle school families on their experiences. The results so far are very clear. The integrated science classes are not working well for these HiCap students. I would like to share some of the student and guardian voices with you from the open-ended responses. I wish science class had more challenging, fast-paced curriculum and require deeper thinking. I would love for this class to help my student learn to work with people who are not necessarily as quick to learn, but everything I've heard so far suggests it's only building resentment. When Quest Kids ask questions, we're being made fun of and discouraged by the Gen Ed kids. I wish science class was much deeper in content, moved through simpler concepts 10 times faster. We spent 5 to 6 weeks on natural selection, a topic teachable in 3 days max. I wish my students' science class were challenging. My child is drifting away from science. They have lost interest in science. They complain about science. It's not interesting. Middle school science not only failed to encourage my kid to be interested in science, it is also demotivating them. There are so many more quotes just like these, and we will gladly share this data with you. We urge you to take a closer look at middle school science and take steps to support our HiCap students adequately. The current integrated science classes are not working for them, neither academically nor social emotionally. The students are very clearly asking for more challenge, more depth, more opportunities for deeper thinking, and a place where they can learn and ask questions freely, without judgment and without ridicule. Thank you very much. Thank you. Next person is Sarah Duke.
Writing on the banality of evil, Hannah Arendt, a 20th century Jewish philosopher who reported on the trials of a Nazi organizer of the Holocaust, said, "Systemic oppression and the normalization of evil can occur anywhere, anytime, and at any scale." If you need to see what evil looks like, I suggest each and every one of you on this board to simply look in the mirror. Each of you are cowards for not publicly speaking out in your positions as elected representatives of a student body of 30,000 children. 603 days of genocide have passed, where we've witnessed countless Palestinian children's bodies dismembered and beheaded by bombs, CAT scans shared by American trauma surgeons returning from missions in Gaza, showing sniper bullets to kids' heads, children tied to the front of Israeli Merkava tanks used as human shields, and children starving to death. More than 50,000 children have been killed or injured, including nearly 5,000 who have had at least one limb amputated without anesthesia. Yet you remain silent. Your silence equals complicity. Evil is perpetuated when these crimes against humanity become normalized as leaders like yourself fail to utter a single word of condemnation against them. And Superintendent Holman is an aider and abettor of this genocide, as he and his cabinet members, Matt Gillingham, Jen Rose, and Dale Cote, have actively worked on silencing district students and parents. Superintendent Holman called police to surveil Palestinian and Muslim parents giving public comments before this very board. He and his henchmen sent administrators and attorneys to question student broadcasting journalists without parents' consent and notification at Eastlake High after they produced a segment on statewide high school walkouts. And he and his henchmen threatened students with suspension if they displayed or said the phrase, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free," at a walkout at Redmond High. In this district, Palestinian, Arab, and Muslim students experience silence, indifference, and erasure in the classroom while they experience the trauma and distress of the ongoing genocide in Gaza. All means all unless you are Palestinian, Arab, and or Muslim in this racist school district. Superintendent Holman, your
You could wrap up
legacy
your
is
comment,
one of
please.
racism and aiding and abetting a genocide. And I hope that God judges you harshly.
Next up is Kaylina Druckman.
Hello, members of the board. I'm requesting a revision to the choice transfer policy to allow continued enrollment at closed schools for existing out-of-district students when space allows. Current out-of-district renewals are automatically denied if a school is labeled closed, regardless of the student's current enrollment or available space, while in-district variances may still be considered. This rigid policy creates unnecessary disruption for out-of-district students who are thriving in their established school community. Other districts grandfather in currently enrolled students, which is a compassionate and student-centered approach that Lake Washington should consider as well. Our assigned school is in Snoqualmie Valley School District, is 9 miles away and requires nearly an hour-long bus ride each way. A 2-hour daily commute is not reasonable for a 6-year-old and prevents participation in after-school activities. Driving her from Sammamish to Falls City and back would also be unmanageable, adding over an hour a day in the opposite direction of our commutes. With 12 elementary schools closer to us than our assigned school, we had a few options, but it is not possible to predict which school would have the best chance for consistent enrollment year after year. We chose Carson Elementary because it's 1.3 miles from our home, closer to Carson than many homes assigned there, and is the assigned school for the neighborhood across the street. Our daughter started kindergarten there with friends from daycare, formed strong bonds, and is thriving. I often see the Carson bus pick up students across the street and follow it 4 minutes to school. This is the logical and stable school for her. However, her renewal was denied solely because Carson is now labeled closed, putting her educational stability at the mercy of school status every year. In addition, she is one of only 2 out-of-district students trying to return. Some transfers are essential for student well-being, not just preference. Please revise the policy to prioritize continuity for existing out-of-district
You could
students.
wrap up your comment, please.
When space allows in closed schools. Thank you for your dedication to families in the Lake Washington area.
Next up is Mahesh Uppala. Mahesh? All right, next up is Jing Wang.
Hi, good evening. My name is Jing Wang. I'm a president of. I'm a president of Gifted Child in Lake Washington District. My child is going to 4th grade, and we got noticed that she need to go to another school, not the home school, because of the full-time quest. And as we know, like the new school is Elkhart, and it will take about 1.5 hours to school every day. So, as the data shows that our home school, Rosa Park, have they have hosted a period full-time quest program and have enough space for kids. So and our kids can go to school not can go to school by work, not for like take 1.5 more hours to take by bus to go to school. I think it's like a waste of time. So we hope kids can get a full-time Quest service at our home school, not like to other schools. Thank you.
Next up is Padmaja Sridharan. All right, that concludes public comment. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the June 2nd, 2025 consent agenda. I will now entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
So moved. Second.
It has been moved by Director Choi and seconded by Director Stewart. Superintendent Holman, will you poll the board?
I will. Director Yoakum?
Yes.
Director Stewart?
Yes.
Vice President La Liberty?
Yes.
President Guthrie?
Yes.
And Director Choi?
Yes.
Motion carries. Superintendent Holman, will you review the donations?
I will. So in your board packet tonight, you have over $82,000 in donations. Two PTSAs, Ella Baker and ICS, donating to their schools. And then just want to offer appreciation to our Lake Washington Schools Foundation for two substantial donations. One to support our LINKS program, which is the volunteer program, Lunch Buddy program, and then also funds to support the Care Solace program.
Thank you. Moving on, next item on the agenda, Dr. Holman, do you or staff have a legislative update?
You know, we don't have a formal presentation tonight, but just indication that we've been meeting board staff with our legislative delegation post-session to hear from them, understand kind of their view of the session, and I think it's been illuminating to all of us as we've entered into those meetings. And we've tried to provide context for our delegation as to our kind of view of the session. I think maybe it changed some opinions of the sessions, because we had a few of our folks voicing some positivity, and they ended the meeting saying, well, it didn't feel positive, and we didn't mean it quite like that, but just trying to really be honest about how the session played out, some concerns about some of the legislation that was passed, creating greater disequity across the state regarding funding, and really hoping to prep for the short session that is upcoming, and continuing to talk about things such as the limited general obligations bond, the non-voted debt front funding bill that has gone through 2 sessions. Fortunately, because of where it landed last session, it will go directly, I believe, to rules, which so it doesn't have to go back to the start. So good conversations and kind of preparatory for the board as you work on your legislative agenda in the fall, and then we'll jump right back into pre-session meetings with our delegation.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the board summary for monitoring report OE9. The monitoring report for operational expectations 9, sustainability, was presented and approved at the May 19th, 2025 board meeting. I would like to thank Director Choi for drafting the board summary for OE9 based on the board's discussion at the May 19th board meeting. I will now entertain a motion to approve the board summary for OE9 sustainability as presented.
So moved. I'll second it.
It has been moved by Director Stewart and seconded by Director LaLiberty to approve this board summary for OE9 sustainability as presented. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we will move on to vote. All those in favor, please signify by voting aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. The next item on the agenda is some updated indicators and policy language. Dr. Holman.
Great. And so I'm not sure we've used this format exactly for kind of my response to the board's feedback through the monitoring process. And so we'll kind of see how this goes, and maybe we'll replicate it and maybe we won't. But tonight I'm going through kind of report by report the requests that you made for policy updates, indicator updates. Some of these I think are ready to go. I think others probably are needing further discussion. Thank you, Director Yoakum, for thank you for the partnership in we found a gap in our process. So when the board made a change on the dais to the summary, making sure that I capture that and then update that in the actual summary is, and so thank you for that that feedback, and thank you to Deputy Superintendent Gillingham for pivoting with me in as we made sure we were responsive to the board's requests. So, wow. So I think for OE 4, 5, 11, and 14, there are updated either indicators or policy that I think we can move forward to first readings. In regards to the results, you'll give me feedback as to where we're at with those. And so if there needs to be further discussion or back to the drawing board, happy to do any or all of that. So I'm just going to walk through each of these components. And so the through monitoring of OE4 personal administration, there was an indicator that the board had a question about, and it was related to the terminology about increasing retention, and when you're declining in enrollment, increasing retention, and those are either current levels or increasing. That can be challenging because as we're declining, that means we're also having to reduce staff. And so my proposal is to modify it to state retention of staff maintains current levels or increases over time, except in instances when enrollment declines or budget shortfalls cause a reduction in staffing. And so it's just, you know, kind of capturing that, and as an indicator, then we would bring data, and I think that data would also need to come along with some narrative explanation as to why the data is playing out the way it is. And so so that's where I landed, and would be happy to take board comments or feedback related to that.
Director Choi.
I just had a quick question. Do you know what the history was on why it said a 5-year period specifically?
I believe, I'll just give my best guess, I believe we were trying to avoid kind of the 1-year success and then the next year, and so just trying to get a better view of the trajectory as opposed to just a single point in time. Okay, great. OE5. So this was taken directly out of the board summary. Essentially, the board was asking for indicators related to enrollment to be a part of OE5, which is financial planning. We know that enrollment is the largest predictor of revenue coming into the district, and so there's a distinct connection between our financial planning, our enrollment, our projections, and kind of the underpinnings of how we arrive there. And so for 5.4, which the policy statement says discloses budget planning assumptions, and so my recommended indicator, which would then have supporting data. So supporting data for budget assumptions related to student enrollment, including trends, capture rate, and transfer in and out. Those are all areas that if, as we know, if our capture rates decline over time, then we know that birth rate, and we know that's been declining as well. So if you have both of those declining, you're going to have less and less kindergarten students entering the system. And so capture rate does tell us a pretty unique story, because generally you're identifying the group of students that would qualify to enroll in your school, and that capture rate tells you what % of those students actually are arriving onto your campus. One of the data points that we asked Flow Analytics to bring forward this year was a birth to 9th grade capture rate, because we have an assumption and or a hypothesis that there are some families that pandemic related kept their students out of our public schools, elementary and possibly into middle school, but were returning for high school. We also know that transfer in and out of the system also tells a story around enrollment. So that's the recommended indicator for 5.4. And I'll just pause here to see if there's any feedback or comments related to this one specifically. Okay, in 5.5, I don't have any recommendations for additional indicators. 5.6 policy statement provides necessary information to the board on matters with significant budgetary impact, allowing the board adequate time to consider the information presented. So my recommended indicator here is annual information related to short and long-term enrollment projections aligned with budget planning. And so, again, I feel like this sort of documents what is already in place, and it codifies really what the expectation is that the board, and as you know, you receive that information right now kind of in that February timeline, which I think that aligns with the board's policy expectation of having that information ahead of time. And so I think that makes sense as an indicator related to this policy. Okay, and then for 5.10, I did not believe there was additional indicators related to enrollment for this policy statement. Okay. Great. OE10 is more of an update. So the board...
Sorry, can we go back?
Oh, I can.
I thought of something.
Yes.
I apologize. For 5.4, so you specifically call out trends, capture rate, and transfer in and out. I'm curious if there's a component to add here around in coordination with like city planning potentially. I know that we had a discussion when we met with our Redmond City Council and kind of their, I forgot what they call it, but their 20-year plan and outlook for the city and their goals and what they're working towards in terms of increasing, population size in the city of Redmond. I'm wondering if that is a component that we add here.
Are you thinking that is a separate indicator or as part of the data?
As part of
the data set
the trends, capture rate, transfer in out.
Well,
and it's an additional consideration. It's not.
Director LaLiberty.
Well, so for like a comprehensive plan that talks about like those are 20-year comprehensive plans that like the city's put out that talk about long-term visions and land use changes for the city. And I mean, if we start doing a 20-year budget, then 20-year projected budget, then maybe. But I think like But like, what are the more immediate, we use a 4-year budget cycle, like the more immediate land use related changes would be, yes, I do suppose like large scale zoning changes would be, but I think like if we're looking at like housing starts, or multifamily housing starts, that's probably going to be more like permit pipeline type stuff would be more indicative. But I feel like I'm babbling. I don't know. Yes, and I'm not quite sure how. Like development changes like by the municipalities in which we operate like will affect enrollment. But I don't quite know how to like bake that into like an indicator. So I guess I'm agreeing with Director Choi. I got there eventually.
And maybe it's what we ask in terms of the demographer's report, because kind of capturing some of those changes, even though we may not see it playing out in the data right now. But, when we met with the city of Redmond, like there's some really unique things that they're doing right now that it's not going to affect us in 1 year or 2 years. But there's going to come a point where 3-4 years, we actually could start seeing some changes. And so maybe it's just how it's presented. So it may not be in the 1 year window, but we're kind of documenting and capturing what those changes are in a little bit longer view, not 20 years, but that 5 to 8 year window makes sense.
Director Stewart.
As we're looking at multifamily, it seems to me that, again, recalling Redmond, the idea that multifamily are now moving to 3 and 4 bedroom, and that indicates more family, if you will, not just one to have space. So if there's some way to capture that planning information, so you have a feel for what do you look forward to. That perhaps might be a precursor to talking to your developers then, letting them know this is happening, ergo, take a look.
Yeah. I'm thinking about our capital facility plan as well, because and I believe the data that's in the capital facility plan is also in the report we received from Flow, but like our multifamily, like generation rate, you'll see when that's in hand that there's an uptick, a change. I believe 0.2, but when you apply that to all of the multifamily that are present and going in across the district, that could be a real change that we start to see, and if we see that continuing to shift. So no, I think all of that it's relative. Okay, thank you. Okay, OE10 was just a request from the board. As we were talking about and presenting OE10, the board asked for follow-up on chronic absenteeism. The follow-up to that is a study session later in the spring. We talked through that in cabinet today, and just the number of students that are now chronically absent post-pandemic is significant. How the state has changed their requirements, policies, law, the expectations for how we engage. We know criminalizing absenteeism didn't work before. Don't believe that that's really a strategy. And so even though the law still has that baked into it, and so look forward to being able to review this from the lens of, it isn't just what do we do about chronic absenteeism, it's what do we do about chronic absenteeism because of the impacts on learning, socialization, connection, peer engagement, all of those things that when you're not present and able to participate, the dire outcomes that occur are impactful. So we'll be actively planning for that. OE11, The board asked for a proposed rewrite of 11.8, and this was really related to the board's desire to codify the concept of innovation better. I like to, and so current, encourage new and innovative programs, approaches, and learning opportunities to increase student engagement and achievement in learning. After attempting, I went back, I listened to the board's conversation. Where I landed was to continuously improve programs and services by leveraging innovative practices and tools that prepare students to thrive in a dynamic and evolving world. So attempting to connect the innovation with actually being future ready. And as the board knows, once we adopt new policy language, the next step is the superintendent interpreting that and then defining indicators. And so this still isn't precise because needs interpretation and indicators. And so would be more than happy to take comments and feedback on the proposed.
I'll throw out, I like this language better. The original language sort of feels like it could lead towards just sort of introducing a new practice because it's sort of the next bright, shiny object. So I like how there's more of a connection here. And I think what that lends itself to, as we do continue to refine or to build out the other pieces that go with this, is the use of data, or sort of, I suspect this can come out in the superintendent's interpretation of continuous improvement, not as a directive, but just thinking about how can we not just do something that's innovative, but tie it to the results that we want to see. So I think this proposed language, I think, is already a step in that direction, and that's, as you continue to think through it, that would be my encouragement. Director Stewart.
The only thing I would change here, inserting the term research-based before innovative practices and tools, with the idea, again, towards the idea of avoiding the new shiny object and having, being able to say, okay, this is where the research goes, this is what has been tried, this has been proven, let's try it here.
So this is the board's policy, so I will let others comment, but my initial thought when you said that was sometimes innovation hasn't been tested yet. And so that would be my, and you know me, I'm research-based, and I think there's something to be said for, yes, innovation needs to be baked in good practice. And so I know exactly what you mean by that.
I think your wording, it's you see the intent.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Director O'Leary.
Thank you. I'm pleased with the proposed language. Thank you for doing that. This, in addition to, I think, tracking, well, I assume I didn't go back and listen, but it does, tracking some board values that were articulated in that meeting, I think actually says something, which the one before, one of the challenges we had was, well, I think this came out in the conversations, my memory is, we had a hard time articulating what it is we actually meant by those words.
Right.
And that's not good policy. So this actually, I can understand, I can parse this sentence and understand what it is. And I am comfortable with going forward with it as well.
Great. And so I guess the question, would the board rather see interpretation and indicators before adopting the policy, or do you want to adopt the policy and then go through the process of interpretation and indicators.
Director Liberty?
The latter for me.
That's technically the correct process to adopt
me.
policy.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
great.
I was just going to say, I think that's how we've always done it.
Unless the board says, could you please bring interpretation and indicators?
Well, that's only when like never
Okay.
mind.
Only when we do whole scale
Yeah.
new policies do we make you do that.
New
Only when it's really hard.
Yeah. Okay, OE 14, there were a few requests for modification. Two was more just, could you bring additional data? So it wasn't about updating indicators. It wasn't that I'm ignoring number 2. Okay, so 14.2, there was a request to revise the 5th bullet to measure compliance by monitoring decreasing disproportionality in retention of diverse staff, rather than the current indicator, which focuses on increasing the overall retention of staff. So the current states demonstrated increase in the retention of diverse staff. And after writing an indicator that was probably 30 words long, and then modifying it, talking with executive cabinet today, this is where we landed, because the indicator really does state a value, and it's the data around that for even as we are declining in enrollment. There's a story to be told around retention, knowing that we just went through a reduction in force process, and knowing that we've been hiring a more diverse staff as of late, and our contracts presently are seniority based, and so last in, first out kind of thing. And so that comes at the cost of retention of diverse staff. And so again, this indicator would come with story and narrative to understand, and how do we parse out the data to kind of set aside the reduction in force, but are we actually maintaining for those that had the opportunity to stay? Are we maintaining our retention practices? So that's the long story of less words probably helps tell the story.
Director Choi.
I think this was my original comment at that when we monitored OE 14. I can appreciate the thought process around the proposed indicator, but I don't think that it actually addresses my concern. It isn't so much about retention of staff. It's about changing the overall makeup, the proportionality of our staff, and working towards a different balance.
So OE4 is personnel administration, where we talk about overall diversification of staff. I believe in reading what the board wrote here. It's about decreasing disproportionality in retention of diverse staff.
Yes. Can we say that?
Yes, and I think my prior comments still hold true, because in times of reducing staff, we already know who will disproportionately be affected by that.
I guess for me, that's the problem. That we know when we have to do reduction in staff, we know what group of staff are going to be disproportionately affected. And that is my concern. Not the explanation of why it is, but the fact that that is the case.
Director Liberty?
Yeah, I think I agree with Director Choi. Dr. Holman, could you go forward one slide? I just want to, okay. So like, yes, I understand that we in a time of reduction in staff, we kind of understand what that will look like in terms of demographics. But I do think like reporting that out and there's value in that. And it also allows the board to have conversations about, because there are things like, yes, that is what with our current practices and processes in place and agreements in place like that there are changes that could theoretically be made that would change that. So I agree with Director Choi. I think the indicator should be closer to what Director Choi is asking for than what we have here, I think.
I do agree as well. I think the underlying value here is that we want students to have role models who share their background experiences, can understand where they're coming from. And so, and as I read through the current policy language, not just the indicators, but that actually doesn't pop. Like this isn't virtue signaling or, like all the other stuff that kind of is around this. This comes back to our students and the experiences that they're having in our school. And so, yeah, to that point, even if there's realities or present day realities that we know are going to make that difficult, we still have that commitment to our students.
Okay. I'll actually bring that one back to my team to understand what would the data look like that we'd be bringing forward. So 14.4, to measure equitable access to rigorous coursework and programs for students receiving special education services. This could be a measure of students receiving special ed services included in the general education classroom. Again, after a lot of words, narrowed it down to an indicator that states increased access for students to learning environments that are less restrictive and more inclusive. And I wrote it a little bit broader so that it had a larger capture of data. So happy to take comments on that.
Director Stewart.
Well, by being broader, I think you actually cut to the chase, to be quite frank. Because you could make all sorts of narrowing of your parameters, but this really captures the intent and the need.
Director Yoakum.
I do appreciate that it's broad, but I also want to look at that. I guess when you read it, it's equitable access to coursework or programs, and I'm wondering if, like, I guess in my mind, programs is more of the environment rather than, I think, the coursework. That's how I feel like I'm interpreting this, at least, and. I think students can be placed in an equitable learning environment, but they may not have equitable access to academic grade level content. So I feel like there's almost two separate things here that this policy is addressing. It's coursework, and that's kind of what I'm seeing it, the coursework and then the classroom settings. So I think it's a really good start, and that's, I'm assuming that like LRE data will come, will be included in that. But I think it's just keeping that in mind of good place to start with equitable access to environment, and then potentially next steps later down the road is looking more at that, the equitable access to coursework.
And I wonder if OE11, because when we think about coursework, like OE11 defines really the instructional program, and if our belief is that coursework should be inclusive, accessible, that doesn't just live in OE14. That really should be how, it's the lens that we look at our instruction through. So, but I jotted a note down about indicators regarding access to coursework for this.
Does that mean then that policy, that sub-policy would change to remove the rigorous academic coursework, like that it would only really focus on the environment, or?
No, and that's the, this is the nuance of having OE14, because it cross-cuts all of the policies. And so what I don't want to do is have data that is presented in two places for redundancy's sake for the board. And so making sure that the indicators and data that we agree to in OE14 are really rooted in the kind of the intent and purpose of the policy.
Okay, so just to confirm I'm understanding, this one would really look at the learning environment, whereas OE11 would look more at the instructional academic.
So
is that kind of?
So in a perfect world, we don't need OE14.
Exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
And so I'm going to bring this back to my team to have this conversation. Do we think it's in OE11 already? And if not, is there an indicator related to coursework? And that makes sense.
Got it.
So,
thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Understand.
Okay. Under result. Eric, did you have excuse me, Director Liberty?
Yeah.
Did you have
a
comment?
I'm just trying to. Yes, I do. Sorry. The OR programs language in the. Oh, everyone got tired of me.
Sorry.
Okay. The OE14.4 that's on our board policies does not match the language that's in the board summary I just noticed, or it was on the screen. So it was the OR programs language that was throwing me, because what shows on the website is provide students with equitable access to rigorous academic coursework. And it's also weird that we then tacked on OR programs, because it was sort of like, or just do that instead, which I can't imagine was the intent. So I was just, could you take a look at what the policy actually is? I will too, obviously, but we should all do that. Because it is germane also to the conversation of what indicators and then potentially what additional new policy sub-provisions should we adopt. So I guess that's a conversation for another day, but I'm
giving an overall conversation around 14. I'll just bring it back for further conversation.
Yeah.
So
I think we did adopt revisions to OE14, subsequent after we initially adopted. So it's possible that that was one of the changes that's just not reflected on what's published on the website. Okay.
Okay, we'll take a look at that. Did you have a question? No?
Director Choi.
Sorry, I was just going to propose a process. This might be a good place to break and then go back and see which ones we could move forward for a first reading and which ones we're going to bring back, if that is the interest. And then we could also let our students go if they so wanted.
So, I think Director Choi is proposing 10-minute recess. Say 11 minutes. No.
They're staying.
We always offer, that's all.
They're checked out.
But we could probably use, yes, to go back and just have a clearer picture of which ones we have now sort of moved forward as more ready for a first read and which ones are still up for debate, because I know we're moving into the section where you're going to talk about the ones that we knew were going to be more up for debate. Okay. Yeah, let's take a 10-minute recess and we'll return at 8:55. All right, Dr. Holman, if you can continue with the presentation.
Okay, great. So jumping into results, in results 1, the board asked for alternative metrics beyond graduation rates to assess progress towards the district vision and identify student experiences that align with future readiness and propose relevant indicators for R1. My recommendation is that we hold on making any changes, given that we will be engaging with our community and staff related to an update to our mission and vision. And at that point, it makes sense to identify and go through the whole process all over again. So for interpretation indicators and whatnot. For results 2, the board asked for a number of things. And so ultimately, one of the things the board asked for was progress monitoring. And so, as you know, that's been built into our work plan this year. And is that all that the board asked for? Oh, I have a response to the last bullet on the last slide. So I'll, you'll be in suspense until then. For R3, the board asked for additional indicators for both 3.3 and 3.5. And so for 3.3, and these were, I'll be honest, these were not simple because right now, as you know, all of the data related to R3 comes from our Panorama survey. And so I know even when it was adopted, the board said it feels insufficient. And so my proposal is kind of the first step towards additional data for results 3. And so there's 2 components to 3.3. One is secondary students' ability to develop reasonable goals and plans to accomplish those goals. That was the first board request. I'm going to share the second board request in that secondary students' belief they can succeed in accomplishing their goals. And so my proposal is, and maybe I'll talk about the how the data would be generated to also then put context for these indicators. As I've described, rather than having a superintendent's advisory, I'm developing a plan to actually go to high schools, kind of periodically and engage with students. My thinking is these are the perfect prompts to actually discuss and talk with students to be able to then report out to the board through results 3, themes from student interviews, focus groups that reflect opportunities for agency and self-determination. Because I can tell you right now, we don't have a universal goal setting process for our students, yet our students all have goals that they're working to attain, if nothing else, graduation. And the idea that students should have opportunities for agency, so decision making through their pathway, and that idea of self-determination, that they are working towards something, I think would be pretty powerful in terms of a conversation with students and being able to collect that data and report it back to the board. And then additionally, you'll see the first indicator here, themes from student interviews, focus groups that reflect resilience. And so kind of one of our, a shout out to the mindsets in our student profile. But again, resilience, agency, self-determination really all play hand in hand together. And so again, bringing back information related to that. And then looking into our staff survey that we do to get some additional perception survey data from our staff around perceptions of student self-efficacy, because it would be interesting to get our educators' view on how do they feel students are viewing their ability to be successful within our context, to maybe supplement our student perception data related to self-efficacy. So I'll pause there and would love comments from the board.
Director Choi.
I love that idea. I'm very excited to see some qualitative data associated with R3. And so, yeah, looking forward to it.
Shira.
For the focus groups and student interviews, like how are you going to be selecting which students participate?
And so I'm going to work with our schools to have a diverse group of students from various backgrounds and experiences, students that love school, students that may not love school. Because to me, having a holistic view of these things, and it's amazing once you sit with a group of students, how they describe their experiences. And to me, these are really important topics to discuss. So, yeah.
Director Stewart.
As you look at diversity of the group, I'd encourage you to look at diversity of our grades.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a C average may be a hell of a success for one student as opposed to the other.
Yep.
And I think their input may actually give you better insights as to what improvements need to be made, the D and the C students.
Yeah. Okay, and then for 3.5, again, this was a glitch in our process on this end. So the summary statement that I have on the board's summary is the top. The minutes actually reflect something different. The minutes reflect propose an additional indicator for R 3.5 that measures students' ability and preparedness to discuss and confront issues surrounding disability. So thank you for calling that out and giving me the chance to bring forward accurate information. As Deputy Superintendent Gillingham and I were talking about data that would be helpful to be able to share with the board and monitor this, we looked at Panorama, the current question banks that they have, and these aren't those. And so, as you know, we can add questions to the Panorama survey. What that doesn't do is it doesn't give us any ability to compare. They're not normed and things like that. And they can still provide us with our own internal data set. And so the proposed indicators that we came up with, it's really three related to this. First, students report the ability to participate in learning with peers with various abilities. Students report they have an understanding of differences based on ability, and students report they know how to address discrimination related to disability status. And so I'm not sure these are perfectly wordsmithed. We would need to understand the actual questions on the survey. We would want to work with Panorama, but I would say these are generally what we're thinking about. I would love your comments.
Director Stewart.
I think this is another category that would be greatly served by talking to the students and having a more of a qualitative look than a quantitative look. I just recall a student at Redmond High being told she couldn't take trig because she was in a wheelchair, and if they had a fire problem, that class was being taught on an upper floor and she would be stuck. And it was a crime that she wasn't allowed to take that class.
Director Yoakum.
I appreciate you doing that very quickly after the email that was sent just a few hours ago. And I understand the desire to want to have comparison with other districts or nationally, but I also think there is benefit to even just comparing within our own district over a period of time. So I appreciate this. Thank you.
Director Stewart.
And comparing from one school to the other within the district. So a comparison of how these reactions come from Redmond High or from Oneida. If it could be done, I think that would be very interesting to see if the environments are different and the reactions are different from different groups.
Yeah. One of the things we haven't done previously is reported school-based data as part of monitoring. So we'd have to talk about what that would look like and if the board is interested collectively in that kind of data. Particularly the first time we go out with data like this. So, because I don't know what the outcomes would be.
One comment I have in the second bullet point, and yes, appreciate that this was wordsmithed on very short notice. Was there a thought process behind using the word ability rather than disability?
So my rationale for using the term is everyone has ability, and everyone has different levels of ability depending on someone might have a strength in mathematics where they may not in English. Yeah. And so my thought was more around broadening the question rather than just students report they have an understanding of essentially disability. And so that was my thinking.
I guess the reason that I call it out, and maybe it should be ability and disability to call out both, just knowing, similar to the story that Director Stewart shared, just as an example, understanding differences between disabilities is actually, I would say is important, and agreeing that it's also broader. So that's why maybe it's ability and disability, having both of those terms in there, but ideally not lumping all disability as just that's disability, and here's what people struggle with if they have a disability, because it's way broader than that.
So what you just described is a different indicator than what I wrote. So because that's focusing on, as a student, do I understand the various disabilities that present in my school, essentially, that I interact with. So that's not what I was asking there, and I understand why you're making that comment.
Director Stewart.
There is a line of thought, though, in the ableism community, if you will, that disability indicates what you can't do. And so I appreciate what you're trying to go for, of concentrating on what they can do as opposed to what they can't do. That said, I can see how you need to stratify it, though. The question is if somebody's going to come back 2 years later and read you the riot act for using the wrong term.
So I guess I would like board direction on Lisa's comment, because President Guthrie commented on is it's a very different reading of that second, and I'm actually comfortable with either, and how we present it will get us different data.
Director Liberty?
So I was going to ask a clarifying question for President Guthrie first. Your comments were on that second bullet point too, and having that either having an additional bullet point or tweaking that slightly, right? And were you proposing to have, I guess you, okay, I understand.
I believe the proposal is students report they have an understanding of disabilities.
Is that basically right?
Or it could be that, or students report that they have an understanding of differences based on ability or disability, which keeps your broad framework, but also brings disability into the conversation explicitly. Yeah.
I have a comment. Okay, so when we initially talked about our 3.5, the summary statement is what I drafted because it's and it's what I wanted, and then the conversation around the board went a different direction, and we approved a summary statement that specifically called out having ability and preparedness to discuss issues surrounding disability. So, and so I think if we're trying to now adopt indicators consistent with that, I think having that second bullet point just be students report they have an understanding of differences based on just disability, and just having that as a carve out is consistent with the direction that the board gave. And I think also is important, and I'm glad we went through this process. I think it tells something interesting and helpful, and we want our students to have that. Like we're measuring results here. Like I think that is an attribute of our students we want. So I would modify, I guess I'm agreeing with Director Guthrie sort of, and just having it based on disability, or you had better language than I did, but not having sort of a or tacked on there, but just make it specific to that. I think accomplishes the board's direction when we approved the summary for 3.5.
Director Choi?
I think I remember the discussion around how we ended up with that summary statement versus what was in the minutes. And there was like a discussion of like, okay, if we specifically have disability, so we had a focus kind of just on race in our indicators initially, but we were talking about social management within 3.5, and so then the question was brought forward, well, what about disability? And then we had that discussion, and then I think I posed the question of like, okay, but what else are we going to add next? So like, what about social management related to socioeconomic status, or social management relating to, I don't know, different political views, or like, so like, I think I had an interest in trying to figure out how do we not have to list out every single demographic or category associated with our interest in students learning social management skills. And I don't have an answer to that. I don't know if it's a change in the policy itself, or if it's a different approach to the questions, so that they're not so specific around a specific race or demographic or whatever that interest is. But like, I do see this becoming untenable if this conversation continues in terms of like, how many questions can we add? Because now we want to address all of the different groups, right? Like, we're not saying one has priority over another. And so, yeah, I do think, again, I don't have an answer. It's just, that was my thought process when we had that discussion initially.
Director Liberty.
That was my thought process as well. And I actually do think that the indicators Dr. Holman brought back, the very first bullet point, does capture sort of a broader measurement of social management. I mean, we're talking about abilities. I mean, it's like an infinite spectrum, right? So that actually does that does meet my interest when we initially had this conversation around the summary statement, and I think it's important that we have an indicator that specifically addresses the board direction in the summary. So all that to say, I'm comfortable going forward with these, with the tweak that, not the tweak, the change that Director Guthrie had proposed.
Director Stewart.
Rather than the use of a conjunction or, I was thinking of and, because after all, you get to from point 1 and point 2, and all of a sudden you jump to point 3, and all of a sudden ability changes to disability. And I think to look at the full picture, you're looking at ability and disability, and then ability can cover a wide range of things. A disability covers a more focused, perhaps, definition, because I think it has it carries its own weight with it. And if all three of these are supposed to be basically doing the same thing, I think you want to have the wording be the same too.
Well, I believe what the board has asked for is for bullet 2 to read, students report they have an understanding of differences based on disability. So,
I think we've gone through two proposals. One would be differences based on ability and disability. The other would just be based on disability. I will point out, I hear all the different interests here. So the specific, some specific language around disability, and if I'm recalling our conversation correctly, it was a whole school year ago. Part of that was tying to the work that we're doing around inclusion in special education and ensuring that all of our students are knowledgeable about issues specific to disability, with some specific things and actions that we're taking throughout our district, specifically around disability, but also acknowledging Director Choi's point. And so maybe the inconsistency could be intentional. I could see that as well, of having, and especially, I think we're good with the first bullet, which does, learning with peers with various abilities is fairly broad. And I think we're good with the last bullet too, of specifically addressing discrimination related to disability status. And to be honest, even though I'm the one who has sent us down this rabbit hole, for which I apologize, the second bullet, I could see going either way. So either just talking about disability or talking about ability and disability. Comments so that we can give a clear direction to Dr. Holman. I guess to put a stake in the ground, I think I was hearing more consensus around having that one be specific to disability and leaving just the first bullet as saying ability, but I'll open to disagreement on that. Director Stewart.
I'd still rather have number 2 be ability and disability. I think that way it addresses the full problem or the full issue.
Director Choi?
I agree. I'm fine with it as either or. But if you want me to pick one, I actually think having it both be ability and disability makes sense.
Director with Liberty.
I always think that being more limiting in what you're saying for anything is the better approach. So I would just say, if we're focused on disability here, just say that. And I feel like that was the direction of the board. And I'll live with whatever. I'll live with either.
Director Yoakum.
I'm having a hard time making a decision right now.
Why don't we, Dr. Holman, why don't you take this conversation and bring something back, which I think was going to be the next action anyway, and then we can, we can see where we're at.
Yeah, I'm actually going to talk with our special services team, because I also want to bring something that centers our students, doesn't other, I just want to be really cautious that we, what we put forward is based in some additional considerations. So thank you. I appreciate that conversation. Okay. And so one of the questions related to R2, but I think it's relevant to all of the results policies, is the idea of how are we continuing to have alignment between the board's results and the direction of the district. At our last board meeting, I talked about our strategic framework, our commitments, our values, our student profile, and so talked with Dr. Rose and Pablo today at Cabinet, and just kind of talked about, like, how do we do this well? And so they're actually going to work with what we call our instructional leadership team and do this alignment work with our central leaders, because number one, they actually know and understand our policy structure, and that's good work for them to engage in as they're thinking about alignment between the board and the work that we're doing. And so we'll do that. I told them like a timeline around February of 26 would, if there are changes related to these policies that we would recommend, that would give us a chance to actually have those conversations, make any changes that we agree to, and prepared for the following monitoring year. And then R1 will do the same thing once we have a updated mission vision. Okay, so I'm going to go back. Sorry. So I believe what I am bringing, and I'll get direction from the board on this. The board has the option to do a first reading, second reading. The board also has the option of choosing to forego a first reading and just do a second reading and adoption. And so I believe OE 4, 5, and 11 are ready to move forward and could possibly fall into the category of foregoing first reading and adoption. I said that I would do some additional work on OE 14 and R3. No, I actually think R3 is ready to go as well. So I'm going to add R3 to my, I think it's probably ready. So I'll leave that up to the board. If you want to do first readings, we do first reading June 23rd and then second reading August 4 or 7, whenever that our first meeting is in August.
Director Liberty.
So the question is what, how to move forward process-wise. For those items that we were all like in agreement and were relatively uncontroversial, I think just having them come forward for adoption at the next meeting makes sense. So I didn't take notes, but I
4, 5, 11.
Okay, that to me makes the most sense. Let's just get these done and move on. For the other ones where there were more substantive changes, I'm thinking like results 3, for example, like what we were just discussing tonight. Like I do think having a first reading and because who knows, maybe there will be input that the community has between those meetings. I think we need to have that opportunity at least. So yes, so I think for some, I think if I was understanding what you were proposing, it was or suggesting as an option, which is to just move forward with those that were uncontroversial. Let's do that. Would be my view. And then the rest have the normal approach.
I concur.
Fewer words than me.
Great. And so I'll bring those forward, and I'll bring OE 14 and R3 for a first reading on non-consent, so we can have those conversations as well. Okay? Thank you. And just as a side note, I am thinking the attempt next year. So board summary is on, so the board will adopt the board summary, and then our goal will be to bring this back at the following meeting. And so we actually turn it around quicker, because like the R3, any changes we make to R3, we're actually talking about the 26-27 monitoring year, because, you know, Panorama just occurred, and that's what we'll be monitoring for next year. And so if we turn it around earlier in the year, then we could get those kinds of changes in the pipeline for a quicker turnaround on monitoring. So that'll be a process that we implement in our cabinet agenda structure.
And maybe the board should, consistent with our conversation earlier today, maybe we should think about whether we want to have any language in our GCs around that as well. No, I'm being serious. Okay.
You're talking about when the board gets the summaries completed, or when the superintendent comes back? I wasn't clear as to what you were codifying.
Never mind.
All right. The next item on the agenda is the superintendent report. Dr. Holman.
Okay. Well, I was asked to add a third item to my superintendent's report, and so I thought I would just do that real quick. Lake Washington School, a couple years ago, if you recall, I shared with the board that we had the 3A and 4A girls state champion softball teams, and to our recollection, we couldn't remember that had occurred before. Well, we had another pretty unique situation over the weekend. Eastlake High School and Lake Washington High School played each other for the state championship in baseball. And that isn't something that happens all that often, and I can't recall that actually ever happening before. And so I started getting a flurry of text messages about Lake Washington actually had a weather delay, and so they actually had to wait an entire day to finish a game that they were up 8-0. They won that and then turned around that same day to play in the championship against Eastlake at 4 o'clock. I believe it was on Saturday. And which is like, how exciting is that to have, you know, two of our high schools, you know, competing for a state championship in that kind. And I don't remember who won, so I'll move on. Lake Washington High School ended up winning, and I believe they came in as like a 12 seed, 13 seed. There you go. And so it just is really impressive and really cool. And
on Friday they had played a nationally ranked team and still beat them.
Yes. And who was that? Do you remember?
Puyallup.
Puyallup, that's right.
Picture.
Someone told me that earlier today too. Yeah. So, yeah, an impressive run. So, congrats to LDub and to Eastlake for getting there. So, okay. So tonight I actually do have two things on my superintendent's report. First, I wanted to share. We have a district safety council that is made up of internal and external stakeholders, led by Scott Emery and his team. They have district staff, administration, students. We also have partners from our cities, law enforcement, fire, and so it's a pretty robust group that they consistently meet and address, discuss, make recommendations related to safety within the district. Director Emery invited Executive Cabinet to come and participate on two fronts. One, to participate in a panel discussion. They had a series of questions that they felt it would benefit them to hear kind of our response and thinking as Executive Cabinet, and gave us an opportunity to really speak to our values, speak to kind of our commitment, and so that was a good thing to do, and reportedly they found value in that. So, check. I'm glad that was valuable. But they also invited us to participate in a tabletop exercise, and a tabletop exercise is essentially a scenario-based problem of practice that's baked in like a real situation, and the work of a tabletop is just to work through that problem, discuss with your kind of colleagues in your group, like what is your response, what are your considerations, how would you move forward, and to then be able to articulate that for the whole group. And so it's really insightful to hear like a student talk about his thinking related to the tabletop exercise that we did. And so you can see here, this was kind of the guidance that we received related to the tabletop. Respond as if the information is real. It is true that it was open. I don't find it low stress to talk about schools closing in the middle of the day, but we'll get to that. But it does give you a chance to really think through without that pressure of needing to get a communication out or a decision made, and then be able to kind of talk about and articulate our thinking was beneficial. And so we had a facilitator. I believe she was from the city of Kirkland that facilitated the tabletop for us, and kind of walked us through a series of variables. And so she titled, it was called the Frosty Freeze, and this was kind of the proposal that we all engaged with. And this actually got us talking about, where do we get our weather forecast from? Because as a district, we actually contract with a meteorologist that looks at very kind of microclimates across our district, because I can tell you Finn Hill and Sammamish are two different weather events. And that has played out many, many times. And so that partnership with our meteorologist, that was new information for the safety committee. Like, they didn't know about that. And so you can see here this scenario, and I said I believe this was an exact scenario that we had this year. So we felt like we had some muscle memory on this, but it gave us the chance to kind of walk through this, and they kept adding variables as we went, just to make it more complex and to give us an opportunity. And so appreciated the invitation, appreciated the chance just to kind of sit in space and focus on safety, emergency response, and to see a good 30-40 people all participating in that same event. And so that is, we do tabletops with our schools around crisis response and emergency events, and they definitely help get you kind of your mindset and your response cued into those situations, because when those events occur, you want to have some level of practice. And so that was, I really appreciated that invitation and participating in that event. Something else, and I think the board is aware of this, I just thought it was important to bring this forward publicly as well. So House Bill 1660, and this is the language directly out of the House bill, an act relating to the participation of students who are low income in extracurricular activities. And it further defines extracurricular activities as athletics, clubs, like, all of those extracurricular activities. And it was during the 2020 legislative session, which was interesting because we didn't have a whole lot of extracurriculars going on at the time. And so we had a couple of years, we now have a couple of years of data related to that. And ultimately what House Bill 1660 requires is for us to provide accommodations for students that are qualified for free or reduced lunch, to eliminate participation fees and or ASB fees. And so again, this is one of those things we all agree with, and it did not come with a funding mechanism. And so that's the data that we've been collecting and to understand impact for our schools. And so during this time, I think, so ASB fees, so anytime a student purchases an ASB card, those funds go directly into an ASB account. And so so the legislature, in their decision, they actually reduced our student ASB accounts. And again, I'm not faulting the value that we were trying to accomplish. The reality was that for our schools, their ASB budgets declined. Student athletic participation fees goes directly to the district budget. And I meant to verify this. A percent goes back to the schools, a small percent. The majority of it goes to paying district coaching stipends, and we backfill the gap with local dollars, about $7 million annually. And so that's just kind of some data related to the current state of the situation. And so as we unpacked the data, we saw that there was kind of variable levels of impact across our middle and high schools, but everyone had an impact in terms of reduced budget. And so as we kind of unpacked this and wanted to make a decision for the long term, we also did a look back for this school year. And so we took the data from this year, and this spring we actually allocated the dollars that they otherwise would have had in their ASB budgets to our schools. The law doesn't allow us to allocate to ASB budgets. And so we had to work with our schools to understand, here's this money that really is to support ASB activities. And so we did that as our look back. And then our process moving forward, so for like the 25-26 budget year, we'll take the 24-25 data, allocate those funds in the fall so that they actually have those to plan for and use, and then we will do that every fall moving forward. And I believe on this next slide, yeah, you can see there's a wide range, and so it isn't about allocating a flat dollar amount to each school. It's actually related to the actual impact on our student ASB budgets to make sure that they have the funds to actually get buses for their trips and all the things. And I just want to say I appreciate Director John Applegate going through this process, working with our schools to collect this data, because to me this is also baked in our commitment to equity, making sure that that our students can participate, they have the option to participate if they want, and that our schools have the resources needed to implement the programs that our students are participating in. And so appreciate that work, appreciate our schools bringing this forward as an issue. And this was, we have now baked this into our ongoing budget. And so the budget that you'll adopt for the 25-26 school year has this as an ongoing budget item that will be for us in years to come as well. So thought it would be important to share and just put some context around, this legislation that occurred, that we agree with the values, and even when a funding stream doesn't come with it, there's times that we do need to, take action there. So anyways, that's my report tonight.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is school visits and community affairs. This portion of the business meeting of the board is an opportunity for any board members to inform and provide updates from school visits or from organizations or groups they engage with on behalf of LWSD. Are there any updates from the board? If not, I have an update. On Saturday, I had the privilege of spending a few hours dialoguing with the Black Prisoners Caucus, or BPC, at Monroe Correctional Complex. The BPC is a longstanding and prisoner-led organization within Washington State prisons that focuses on education, social justice, and racial equity, working to empower incarcerated individuals and strengthen their communities. These individuals do not have easy access to this space here tonight or to those of us in it, nor do we have easy access to them. So bear with me. I'm going to take some time in an attempt to honor their voices and bring them into this space. First, I want to mention that I was joined by 12 dedicated LWSD teachers, staff admins, and coordinators from Equity and Family Engagement. I want to express my deep gratitude to them for taking time out of their Saturdays to engage in this important conversation, which ultimately leads back to how we can better serve our students. After a full group opening, we split into 4 small groups for discussion. In my group, we started by talking about our personal experiences within the school system. For many of the BPC members, these experiences were not positive. Most had not finished high school prior to being incarcerated. 2 out of the 8 or so men in my group had stopped attending school regularly in 6th grade. We spent most of the time unpacking what had led to their disconnection from school. I had 3 big takeaways. Number 1, trauma and its impact on education. Adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs, were universal among the men in my group. Looking back, they recognized how those experiences shaped how they showed up at school. Unfortunately, we cannot prevent our students from experiencing trauma, but we can and we must provide a learning environment that facilitates healing. The BPC members had a strong ask of us to ensure all teachers receive training in this area so that they are better equipped to identify and support students experiencing trauma. It is not something that only counselors and admins need to know about. Number 2, the importance of inclusion. Multiple men in my group had been identified for special education services as children, often due to behavior. It's not my place to say whether those behaviors were due to disability or simply trauma. Regardless, it resulted in time spent in self-contained special education environments, which served to further their trauma and disconnection from school. One man had been identified as highly capable. He was placed in a self-contained, highly capable program, which meant leaving his local community for a faraway, predominantly white school where he never felt like he belonged. This furthered his trauma and disconnection from school. To me, their stories spoke to the deep importance of our work around inclusionary practices. All students need connection. Some students also need academic or behavioral supports. We cannot sacrifice either one of those needs for the other. Number 3, positive role models matter. Many BPC members expressed that they never understood the value of education until they got to prison, where many of them have overcome incredible obstacles to further their education. I asked what changed for them in prison that allowed them to finally see education as relevant and worthwhile. Turns out it wasn't actually about the education itself. In fact, they politely but firmly informed me that prison is a horrible place and education in prison is even worse. What turned things around for each of them was their peers. Every man in my group had a story about another incarcerated individual who had reached out to them during their classes in prison, helped them learn, and ultimately provided a compelling alternative to the life that had led them to that point. It made me think about our students and whether they have those types of positive role models, because this goes without saying, but our students should experience that kind of support and leadership without going to prison. They'll need it in school, especially if they don't have it at home. In school, it could come from a peer, but it could also come from a teacher or other adult. To that end, the BPC members spoke directly to the importance of this board's goals, which we just discussed, around increasing representation among staff, as we've laid out in OE4 and OE14, to increase the likelihood that a student will encounter an adult role model with similar background and experiences. Overall, this meeting reinforced the urgency of ensuring every student feels seen, supported, and included in our schools. As I looked around at the faces of the BPC members in our group, in my group, I kept thinking about our conversation at our last study session about the noted exceptions in our monitoring reports. Our students who aren't seeing the same high levels of success as the majority of our district. Well, these BPC members were once noted exceptions on some school board's monitoring report, or they would have been if someone bothered to look. Our board does bother to look. That's not enough. Once we look, we can't look away. We need to see those noted exceptions not as numbers or inevitabilities, but as calls to action to dig in and do better by our students. Thank you again to the LWC staff who attended, and thank you to the BPC members for their hospitality, honesty, and humanity. I look forward to continuing this conversation and working towards meaningful change. The next item on the agenda are board member committee updates. Do any board members have updates they would like to provide? If not, I can go with a shorter, but still related update. Last Wednesday, I attended a Community Connectors meeting. This group looks at issues of safety and security in schools. This particular meeting focused on developing an engagement plan for gathering input from the broader community on this topic. It was structured as a collaborative effort to co-design a toolkit that will empower Community Connectors participants to engage effectively with the various communities that they are part of. The goal is to refine this toolkit between now and our next meeting later in June, ensuring that each participant has a clear framework for meaningful outreach, leveraging their existing trusted relationships. Key discussions included identifying situations that make students feel unsafe, exploring ways schools can prevent those situations, and strengthening trust between families and schools, another theme that came up in my discussion at the BPC. We emphasized the importance of modeling effective engagement within our group so that we can set a strong example for our broader community. Director Choi.
The Secondary Math Adoption Committee met for the final time this year. I unfortunately wasn't able to attend, but I do have a summary from that meeting from the facilitators. After 5 full-day meetings filled with learning, discussing, reviewing, and reading publisher materials, 2 sets of secondary math materials have been selected for a fall 2025 pilot. The committee, consisting of teachers, building administrators, community members, and specialists, has representatives from each school and each area of the district. Reflecting the committee's dedication to supporting all students, the materials from both publishers are based on the highly rated foundation of illustrative mathematics. We will pilot the Amplify Desmos program and the Imagine Learning Illustrative Mathematics program to find out which platform has the best potential to support effective teaching and student learning. That's my update.
Director LaLiberty.
I'm not sure this is an official committee or not, but Director Yoko and I completed the process and the selection process for our new student representatives joining next year as juniors. I didn't check in with you to see if you had anything to say about that. Okay, backfill whatever I missed, okay? We had a total of 82 applicants this year for the 2 positions. That's up from 76 last year, so it continues, the pool of interested students continues to grow, as does the pool of extremely highly qualified students. It was a very difficult task to even try to limit the number of students we interviewed to 10. Which we did, and then we conducted those interviews this last week. And once again, that too proved almost impossible to select 2 students. But we managed to. And the next 2 students that are going to be joining us next year are Humzini Reddy from Emerson K-12 and Sarah Samantha from Redmond High School. And they will be joining for an orientation on this Wednesday. And are both looking forward to starting. So, did we do it? We did it. Please.
The interview process was a little bit different, and we had students come prepared with some tasks we had asked them to do ahead of time, and Prior to this, I believe there was one student rep who had interviewed who had actually seen a board meeting. So that was part of our task, was having them watch a specific board meeting and come back with learnings or what they would have said or questions or suggestions. And just sitting like with all of them, I was just taking notes on all of their suggestions and questions, and it was incredible that they all came prepared and they all had phenomenal ideas. And it just really hit me that, like, yes, the student voice is so important because we're so limited with like the way we're thinking, that just even opening that up to 10 people to spend time watching this one clip, what they could come back with was pretty impressive. So that was it.
All right. Next item on the agenda is review of future board business. The board plans to meet next on June 23rd, 2025 with a 5 o'clock study session, 7 o'clock board meeting. The board will now meet in executive session for 60 minutes for the purpose of discussion with legal counsel about legal risks of current or proposed action. Please note, executive sessions are closed to the public. The board will convene in executive session starting at 10 p.m. At the conclusion of the executive session, the June 2nd, 2025 board meeting will be adjourned at 11 p.m. There are no additional agenda items, and there will be no board action following executive session. Should the board require additional time to meet in executive session, I, as board president, will announce an extension of the executive session. The board will now convene into executive session. I will now entertain a motion to adjourn. Oh, no, I'm not doing that. Never mind. No motion to adjourn. Thank you.